Welcome back, everybody. Today's meta update video is going to be talking about my two favorite heroes that I've been playing right now, some newish builds that I've come up with, and why they're successful. And I'm going to give you a quick how to do for the laning phase, the mid game, as well as how these heroes carry the game. So hopefully you guys can apply this yourself. Let's go ahead and get into it. So our first hero is one of my favorites, Ursa. Now, this is a hero that I feel like has struggled a bit with the traditional build of like Blink, Basher, BKB, because they nerfed the stun duration on Basher, they nerfed BKB, and they've buffed Nullifier, which purges your overpower, and it just feels really bad to play this hero in that circumstance. It also feels like Battle Fury heroes are a bit hard to pull off, but don't you guys fret, because I have found a new build that has worked wonders for me in the 3 games I've played it. It's won all 3 games, and it's felt really powerful. That's like the biggest part about this. It's felt powerful. So let's go ahead and break the build down: early game, mid game, late game. So in this specific game, I had a 5-position sniper who wasn't even in lane for the first bit, and he ended up being, spoiler alert, completely useless as I'm getting 1v2'd, and he ends up dying a few times in lane. But don't you guys fret, because after the early items, if you're having a bit of a tough lane, you can just do the old rush ring of health that we used to see on Ursa. Now, you may be saying, BSJ, but that doesn't build into Battle Fury anymore. That kind of sucks. Well, spoiler alert, you can build a Vanguard off of this. So the only time that I go this part of the build is if I'm having a tough lane. If I'm having a pretty good lane, I'd like to save up for the Cornucopia. It's just hard to get 1200 gold in the laning phase. Ideally, I would go treads into Cornucopia towards the Battle Fury. So, why are you willing to build Vanguard on Ursa, BSJ, if you said Basher is nerfed? You don't want to go Abyssal, right? Right, guys. So as long as Vanguard is disassemblable into an Octarine core, yes, you heard me right, an Octarine core, this is a viable part of the build. If you are having a tough lane, and by the time you watch this video, Vanguard is no longer disassemblable, don't be afraid to still get that ring of health, because it goes towards that Octarine core, but then you're just using it as like a way to sustain through the early game. Why I like Ursa for a Vanguard hero is because Fury Swipes actually makes him a threat, very similar to how Anti-Mage's Mana Burn makes him a threat, and he still farms pretty fast with just treads and a Vanguard, and you still go back into a Battle Fury later. So laning stage is Ursa, very standard stuff, but if you're having a tough one, you can go for a Vanguard. So what I like so much about this game particularly is that my team lost both of the other lanes atrociously. As you can see, I'm having a really good game. I'm 1-0. We're down 7 kills and 2,000 gold at 13 minutes. But this is where the build gets a bit spicy. So we're going into the Battle Fury as per usual. Nothing different so far. After the Battle Fury, though, if you're having a very good game, you would like to go Blink. The reason why is even though they've nerfed the Basher and stuff, Blink Dagger is still the best item for Ursa if he's free farming, because you can blink from camp to camp and he kills the camps really fast with Overpower plus Battle Fury. And it allows you to participate in fights if you're having a really good game. But as you can see, this game's kind of a nightmare. And if the game is not a really good game, I now go, you heard me right, Yasha into either Manta or SNY. So bear with me. We hate BKB. BKB, shit item. Why? Because it got nerfed so many times. And what this entire build's going to allow you to do is play without a BKB, at least until very later on in the game. So the times that I go Manta, I treat it like Jug. I use his Manta as a way to enrage, okay? The Manta illusions don't do anything. They don't Fury Swipes. It's just for the sake of being able to use enrage. So in this specific game, I was against a Orchid from Storm. So if they have a reliable silence, like a Death Prophet and a Storm with an Orchid, then I go for the Manta. If not, SNY is strictly better because the Manta illusions for Ursa don't do much, and I should have no problem using my ultimate as a defensive mechanism. This is when we go back into the Octarine core, or the Sanjin Yasha. Remember, the items you're gonna have, I know I haven't broken this down yet, they're gonna be Treads, Battle Fury, Manta or SNY, Octarine core, and a Blink. The Blink comes in there somewhere. It really comes down to when you think you're strong enough to just blink in because you're having a really good game, or you feel like you need somebody on your team to blink in. In that case, you can go Blink. But ideally, like, I would rather play Ursa without one if possible, because this new style of Ursa doesn't really rely on bursting people nearly as much as the old one. So why Octarine core, BSJ? Sell it to me. So before I show you a late game team fight, I want you to look at Ursa's skills. He has 3 activatable skills, and If you combine all of this with the shard, which is absolutely essential, you want the shard to come out right around the time that you get your Octarine core. If you look at his level 20 talent and his level 15 talent, suddenly we're seeing a story here. Ursa applies 2 Fury Swipes, which makes you do an extra 74 damage per hit, by the way. Ursa cooldown by 2 seconds, plus Octarine core. We are suddenly looking at a 4.5 second Ursa cooldown and a 1.5 second enrage. This is how the build scales. You do damage because you're Earth-shocking people. Off cooldown, right? Your Earth-shock is building up your Fury Swipes. You take the Fury Swipes reset time. Suddenly, like, these people are not purging it. It's literally Slark with Essence Shift and Ag's Pounce. You don't even have to hit them very often because eventually you will hit them with 6 hits of Overpower. They're probably got like 4 or 6 Fury Swipes on them already, and they just die. Let's go ahead and quickly watch a team fight. So I know at this point we're up by 15k. But bear with me, I only went Ags as an experiment in this game. Normally this would have either been a Blink Dagger or another item like Abyssal that gives me lockdown, just something that isn't an Ags. I actually tried the Ags, it just didn't feel very useful because you've already got a lot of like utility items that don't really do damage. So like an MKB, Abyssal, Swift Blink, something like this instead of the Ags. But as you're going to see, I can spam my Earthshock while I'm sieging. You're actually a really good sieger. And they're going to cast a ton of spells on me. And even though my ulti was on cooldown for a bit, they're going to keep going. Pugna's healing me, and I am just super tanky. And my Earthshock also applies through BKB. So maybe the slow doesn't, but the Fury Swipes get applied. So people try to kill you. You have non-stop enrage going for the entire duration of the fight. And eventually, the enemy gets worn down, and they simply can't kill you. Now, if this is not of a sell, Now, if this does not sell it to you, let's quickly rewind to when I was sieging base. This is something that Ursa's always struggled with, which was ending the game. And I can just keep spamming all of my spells, my Overpower as well as my Earthshock, just for damage reduction. They try to go on me, I had an Earthshock going, 80% damage reduction and status resistance, 50% status resistance. And eventually they just get worn down. And the beauty of this Ursa build is that you never go on them unless they go on you. And at that point, you're killing them. Now, on to our next hero, Ursa. I'm going to be spamming this build. I think it's absolutely busted. It's specifically good when the opponent has a lot of abilities that are only countered by status resistance. Legion Commander Duel, Doom, just Spirit Breaker and his lockdown. This is especially good in this patch because we're seeing a lot of these heroes and they rely on basically making it so you can't do anything as a carry. These anti-carries, I feel like, are no longer so powerful against a build like this. So next up, my second favorite hero of the patch has been Carry DK. A lot of people have been shitting on DK as a hero, and I am imploring you guys to try this build because it is absolutely broken, but it has never been played like this before. And I'm not saying this as like a YouTube pitch. I literally think, I don't know what I would do if the opponent DK did this well, okay? I actually don't know how to counter this shit. So, what the idea is that DK in the past was a blink stunner. He was a offlaner, a mid laner, a guy that played around tower sieging and stunning. Now, let me tell you, let's just forget everything we think we know about DK and listen up. Over the years, he has had movement speed buff creep out the wazoo. He is now a 315 base movement speed hero. He used to be very slow, making him need a blink dagger to get around the map and team fights. Also, he used to be a blink stun. Look at his stun duration in the recent patch. It got nerfed pretty hard, guys. Level 1's down 0.45 seconds. The final level's down 0.6. That's a lot of time on a hero that relied on his stun. But what has been buffed is Breathe Fire now applies the Elder Dragon Form ability. That's actually a really powerful farming tool in the early game because it makes it so your single target spell damage from your ulti now applies on all the creeps and the heroes. And also, over time, his Dragon Blood has been buffed. And his ultimate has been buffed a few times too. So, on top of this, they also gave him 1.6 base attack time instead of 1.7, so he just attacks faster. So this hero, in my opinion, is a carry. So what makes him so strong as a carry is that you're dealing with a lot of Vanguard offlaners, a lot of heroes that are looking to click you down, like Techies in the 4 position, Bounty Hunter, like they're trying to harass you out of lane. So the idea behind DK is he's actually pretty freaking useless in lane. Spoiler alert, do not level your stun unless you absolutely have to get a kill at like level 2. But otherwise, your stun, dog shit spell in the laning phase. As a carry player, it doesn't help you do anything that you want to be doing. What this hero can do, make sure your support knows this, is he needs you to have a pull camp, the support, and just let him be. Literally, Like, you can play the first, like, level or two, like the lane is normal, and afterwards, DK is the most self-sustaining but useless to you carry. Now, you may say, BSJ, why are you trying to sell me on a broken hero that is useless? The answer is they can't do anything to you. I've only lost one lane out of the 6 that I've played. I still won that game, and the only reason that this hero struggles in the early game is that he feels like he has to do something. He feels like he has to make towers die. He has to force the issue because he doesn't flash farm until level 12, where his ultimate gives him splash damage. And he also just lacks flash farm, right? So what do? We go bracer, stick, maybe a wand, straight freaking Midas, baby. And people can't do anything about it, guys. I am telling you that people can't do anything about it. And look at my skill build. What ends up happening is you can spam Breathe Fire because it does 30% damage reduction. And at level 2, it secures literally every range creep. So at level 3, if you're having a really good lane, you take second point Breathe Fire. If you're getting a little bit more harassed, you take the second point in your passive just to make sure you don't get booted out of lane. And you can see here that I just naked rush the Midas. I'm telling you, this hero doesn't do anything if he goes other items, and he doesn't get anything done to him if he goes Midas. So you go Midas, and then what happens is this allows you to do the normal carry farming pattern of between lane and jungle. And if the opponent offlaner leaves, the beauty of it is you can actually apply a lot of pressure to the tower with just your ultimate and a Midas, but we're not even prioritizing the tower that much. And the best part about this build is that you just push out the lane. See you later, nerds. Like, you don't even worry about the offlaner, just push it out. And you may say, BSJ, you're winning by 3K, but this has been every single game of DK where I say, hey, support. Leave me alone. Go mess with the mid laner. They're pressuring mid. They take the mid tower. I'm doing my own thing on this island down here. And I just go 4-0-2. Like, I literally just max out Breathe Fire. It's 320 damage. When my ultimate's on, it applies my damage over time to everything. And you actually farm pretty fast. Now, where do we go from here? Mid to late game. The first item that you go after the Midas is Treads. After the Treads, you go Manta. Now, BSJ, why Manta? I don't understand, DK. Why do you insist on buying Manta on this hero? I want you guys to realize that DK is a normal hero in the laning phase, but later he's literally Terrorblade or Naga. Okay, like that is literally what he is, because his illusions benefit from all of the perks of his ultimate. They become ranged, they do damage over time, they do splash, they clear creep waves, they do damage to towers. So, like, you can actually use your illusions to pressure towers, and you can use them to push waves and protect yourself. And I'm just spamming my ulti off cooldown. And so the reason why the Manta is so important is that it just accelerates our ability to run around the map. We have lower base attack time, so it benefits us even more. And then after the Manta, we go straight into Octarine Core, okay? Octarine Core, we have a Midas. We have an ultimate with a 40-second downtime. Now it's only 15-second downtime. We have Breathe Fire. We have a stun. We have a Manta. It just makes sense, people. Octarine Core, still freaking broken as an item, and it's even better on DK than it was in the past because, like, yeah, the cast range was nice on a stun, but that's about it. After the Octarine Core, let's keep in mind the playstyle, right? So the playstyle of DK is that you just don't interact with the opponent at all. I know that sounds super boring, but what I'm saying is they have to fight into you. They have to, like, 4-man, 5-man smoke gank you, otherwise you just don't care. So do not feel forced to take objectives. I want to remind you guys that I have Aegis here, and that, or I want to bring attention to the fact that I have Aegis, and we're sieging. I don't quite have Ags, and I feel like, you know, we're really powerful. We're up by 11k, but this is not what DK actually does. I know this looks strange, but we just don't have to do this at all. Like, we don't have to do what we're about to do here. We get this fort, we should just back. This is the one thing we have to be careful of, is your ultimate being on the 15-second downtime and a fight breaking out. Do not allow this to happen. I have made this mistake. You have to communicate to your team, hey guys, there is a 15-second window that we cannot fight, okay? And other than that, we're a freaking god, okay? So what happens is we end up taking a fight during this 15-second window, and we die. Now, that is something that I have had happen to me several times at DK, and I'm telling you, if you avoid this, it is smooth sailing for the rest of the game. Why do we go Octarine before the Ags, by the way? Because the Ags doesn't really do much until you're level 18, because that's when you get the big black dragon. So notice how in my build, I finished the Ags right now, and I hit level 18 at the exact same time. So that's the big part about this build, is the timings all line up where farm, 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 get Ags, level 18, end game. Now, you guys may ask, why is DK such a hard carry? This hero with Ags gets 25% magic resistance, The slow is now 60%, the movement speed slow. So he has like a built-in Scotty. Doesn't pierce BKB, but it's built in. Splash damage, so like a built-in Battle Fairy. And does damage to towers. And with level 20, has 150 Elder Range Dragon attack range. He now has 650 attack range. So he is now a Naga that slows people when they hit them with the hero and the illusions, and kills buildings, and has free pathing, and has 650 range. I hope I'm selling you guys on this right now. So this is what I mean by not having to force objectives. Notice how in this case, I am just using Manta Illusions to make them go back to base. Because these Manta Illusions, with the big black dragon, they will kill this tier 3. It just dies to the damage over time. So you can tell your team, like, you don't have to fight at all. The opponent eventually has to respond. They have to do this. They literally have to respond to your illusions. And you can make sure you send them at the range racks because that is unhealable damage. Now, there is a bug currently right now. Don't tell Gaben. That when your illusions respond with your ultimate and they turn back into regular hero because the ultimate timed out, the illusions will still do damage over time. And they will still slow. They won't do AoE, but they will still slow. So notice how this illusion that's no longer in ult form is still ticking damage to the racks. So we can just keep this up for all of eternity. Usually after this build or after these items, I like to go Silver Edge because it's like a blink dagger that has lower cooldown for him, meaning like you do lower the cooldown of Silver Edge. It has a higher cooldown than blink dagger, but it does damage for you, right? It's damage and attack speed. So it's just a nice way to get around the map and position in fights, and because you have free pathing during ultimate, you don't necessarily rely on like blinking over cliffs or anything. You can just Shadow Blade and walk over them. It's really hard to lock you down. But notice it's the same playstyle. I told my team they have to react, guys. Do not chase after them. Do not force a fight. You guys can just farm. They have to react to my illusions. They just have to, right? This is the part of DK that people don't see as like a hard carry. Because like even though it looks like cheesy, there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. That illusion has 4,000 HP, 25% bonus magic resistance, and free pathing. So you can just keep doing this. And it's really hard to catch you because I'm just Shadow Blading through trees. It's insanely difficult to gank this hero. So you keep this up, and then now we're going to force a Roche because we forced reactions to base. So that's the entire idea of this build. So there have been throws. We launched an Aegis. They took an Aegis. I'm telling you guys, this game has been a real barn burner. And this game, my last item was actually a Lincoln Sphere to prevent the Morphling from morphing into me with his Ags and stealing all my stats, okay? So that's why I have Lincolns in this specific game. So this last item can just be situational. It can be AC, Lincoln, Satanic, BKB if you absolutely need it. So I want to talk to you guys how to approach team fights, right? So in this case, what we want to do is we want to use our Manta and then send the illusions at the supports or the backliners in general, okay? So what you're going to notice here is that when the illusions get sent at the supports, like these are just hitting other people, they simply don't move. They are slowed by 60% from your illusions. They simply do not move. That Pugna had to BKB because he's getting hit by an illusion, okay? And then people BKB to fight you. You're super freaking tanky. You can just man fight them because they had to buy BKB and you didn't. You take these really long fights similar to Naga, and eventually they get worn down, people. They are slowed. They have to run away, but they can't. They can't bring you down because you're super tanky, and you kite them. Like, you don't have to man fight, right? The only reason I man fought the Murano was because he was the only guy there. But if they try to go on you, you can just kite them backwards because your Manta illusions slow them by 60%. And eventually, you just wear them down, and that's how you win team fights, guys. These are my two heroes for 7.33C. I'm winning with them. I really think you guys can win with them, too. Biggest note is that BKB is a shit item, and these heroes don't have to buy it. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time.